The now iconic image of the Scream was first created in 1893 by Edward Munch. The Scream is a visual representation of an actual event in Munch's life. Thus, to fully understand the work, we must understand the artist himself. Munch grew up in a farmhouse in Loden, Norway, with his father, a medical officer, his mother, and 4 siblings. However, in 1868 his mother died of tuberculosis, leaving his father and aunt to raise the children.
My father was temperamentally nervous and obsessively religious, to the point of psychoneurosis. From him I inherited the seeds of madness. The angels of fear, sorrow, and death stood by my side since the day I was born.
In 1877, Munch's favorite sister died of tuberculosis, the same disease which had taken his mother. This event was particularly traumatic in Munch's life, and it is revisited time and time again in his work. It was also this event which first led Munch to express raw emotion on the canvas after years of experimenting with Impressionism and Naturalism in his piece The Sick Child.
The Sick Child was my first soul piece. The study of the soul, that is to say, the study of my own self. In my art, I attempt to explain life and its meaning to myself.
While the styles are distinctly different, it is this emotion that links The Sick Child to the series of images known as the Scream. The first version, and most widely recognized, was made with tempera on cardboard in 1893. The second version was created the same year with crayons on cardboard. Many art historians believe this version was never actually finished because of the lack of color compared to the other works in the series. A third version was created in 1895 using pastels on cardboard. The same year, Munch created a lithograph, a form of printmaking, of the Scream. Finally, in 1910, after much success with the other works in the series, Munch created another tempera on cardboard version of the Scream. But what exactly is happening in this horrifying yet ambiguous scene? Who is the androgynous figure in such agony?
I was walking down the road with 2 friends when the sun set. Suddenly, the sky turned as red as blood. I stopped and leaned against the fence, feeling unspeakably tired. Tongues of fire and blood stretched over the bluish-black fjord. My friends went on walking, while I lagged behind, shivering with fear. Then I heard the infinite scream of nature.
Munch clues us in with the poem just heard, painted on the 1895 pastel version's frame. It describes a scene from Munch's own life. He and 2 friends are walking across a bridge when a scream is heard. Munch is paralyzed in horror, covering his ears, while his friends walk on as if nothing has happened. Thus, Munch himself is the main subject in the image, and his 2 friends are the figures walking in the background. However, there are 2 current theories on what exactly the Scream itself was. The bridge where Munch was walking was very close to a slaughterhouse, and many believe that the infinite scream of nature could refer to an animal screaming out as it is being slaughtered. Others, however, note that this bridge was also very close to an insane asylum, where Munch's own sister was staying at the time. They hypothesize that the scream was actually coming from the asylum, and Munch is horrified that it could be his sister.
They will not get it in their heads that these paintings were created in all seriousness and in suffering, that they are products of sleepless nights. They have cost me blood and weakened my nerves.
Like many of his predecessors, Munch too struggled with mental illness, demonstrated in his earlier works, like The Scream, with morbid themes and excessive use of dark colors. In 1908, he entered a hospital to seek help with his alcoholism, hallucinations, and feelings of persecution. After 8 months of intensive therapy, Munch was able to make a full recovery. This life change is clearly reflected in Munch's post-recovery works, demonstrated by much more color, the utilization of white space, and very few dark themes. Munch spent his later years living back in Norway, finally a successful artist and able to provide for his family. In 1937, the Nazi Party declared Munch's works degenerate, and 82 of his pieces, including one of the versions of The Scream, were taken from German museums. Thankfully, 71 of those works, including The Scream, were returned to Munch in Norway through private purchase. In 1940, the Nazi Party invaded and took over Norway. Munch was terrified of his works being confiscated, so he hid them all on the second floor of his house. Munch died in 1944 after successfully keeping his art safe from the Nazi Party. All the art found in his house went to the newly created Munch Museum in Norway. Though Munch was dead, the legacy of The Scream was far from over. In 1994, the pastel version of The Scream was stolen from the National Gallery in Oslo, Norway. Two men broke into the museum on the same day as the opening ceremony of the Olympics, smashed the glass, and left a note saying, "Thanks for the poor security." The painting was recovered the same year with the help of Scotland Yard, who sent 2 undercover agents pretending to buy the work. The Scream was well known before this incident, but the international news teams that were in Norway to cover the Olympics made the heist and the piece itself a sensation. 10 years later, in 2004, the 1910 version of The Scream was stolen from the Munch Museum by 2 armed men in broad daylight, along with another of Munch's pieces, called the Madonna. Together, the pieces were worth an estimated $100 million. This time, it took 2 years for The Scream to be recovered, and the details on where or how it was found have never been revealed to the public. The Scream has been heralded as an icon of modern art, a Mona Lisa for our time. Whether it be for high-profile thefts or the sheer ambiguity and dark nature of the composition, Munch's The Scream is now by far one of the most well-recognized pieces in modern history.